Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Find Your Model Health, the official podcast for those looking to optimize their long-term health and weight goals and understand how their body really works. I'm your host. I'm Shmaine Linney. I am a nutritional therapist, integrative health practitioner, biohacker, and certified iridologist. I'm very happy to have you all back with me for another piece of your day. I hope you find this conversation very, very interesting as we continue to teach you about your body and how it works and help you take responsibility for your health. Before I introduce our guest today, I must remind you that the information in these podcast episodes is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Please consult your health practitioner before making any lifestyle changes. So today, help me welcome the very wonderful and very beautiful Lana Kerr. Lana is founder and CEO of Lumisque Skincare. Lumisque. You'll have to correct me, Lana, and creator of CO2 Lift. So CO2 Lift, which we're going to learn all about, is a cutting edge non-invasive carboxytherapy for women, and we're going to go into detail on that. But I wanted to have Lana on as we continue to learn more about our hormones and what happens to the female body, especially as we age. And Lana's primary goal is to educate women about their bodies and the treatment options they have, because as we know, menopause can bring a multitude of symptoms. And Lana has quite an extensive background in this area, being CEO of Lumisque and having experience in other areas of health that connect directly back to women's health, including symptoms like dryness, discomfort, clitoral atrophy, and other things that can really impact women's lives and make our days quite challenging. So thank you for joining us, Lana.
Jermaine, thank you so much for having me. Really, I'm excited to talk about this topic and I love what you're doing. So thanks again.
Thank you. Now, correct me. I think that was an automatic eye twitch where I said luminesque, but it's luminesque.
Lumisque, yes, Lumisque, 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 but the brand is CO2 Lift.
Yeah. So tell us now, because this is such an interesting area and so not on the mainstream when we think of health. What got you into looking at women's skin and vaginal health as they transition through their years? Like it's not something that you'd go, oh, I'm going to get into this just because I like looking at vaginas.
Exactly. In fact, I didn't look at my own vulva until I was in my mid 30s. So, well, okay. So it started with, my background is in accounting and finance. So that's where I started off. And then I went back to school and studied nutrition and have had weight loss clinics over 20 years ago. We changed our model and then we went more virtual. So our coaches went virtual and then we had decided on shutting down our locations and having one. So we chose a med spa. And so we had one office for weight loss inside there, and then we had the other ones virtually. But then we had to look at skincare. So I hired someone to as a spa director. But in looking for things, to be different for skin, usually when people lose weight, then they start to, or they lose fat and they feel ideal. They feel like they're looking good. They want to start taking better care of themselves. So it was almost like a natural transition for us to look into that, but then started to look at what is different. I always like to find something that's unique. And a lot of the things that I get involved in, almost all of them, are things that pertain, that inspire me,
Yeah.
that I have. And so even with skincare, I mean, I was looking at, what can I do that's effective and yet simple, because I'm a very simple person. I don't like a lot of things. And so I liked what is the best thing that is going to be effective. And we came upon carboxytherapy, which I had never heard about. And carboxytherapy is a therapeutic use of CO2 gas to regenerate the tissue. It's a very old treatment. So it dates back to the samurai warriors when they would bathe in the carbonic hot springs after war to very quickly heal their wounds. because you see, when carbon dioxide penetrates the body, penetrates the skin, the tissues, it triggers a rush of oxygen. So think of a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. That's what the effect of carboxytherapy is. It's almost, so it's going to create vascularity, blood flow, it's going to hydration, it's going to regenerate the tissue very quickly. Anyway, fast forward to the 1900s, the French developed a delivery system where they would use a tank and a needle and inject it into the skin. So that's what we were thinking, okay, how are we going to bring this into the United States? I mean, a lot of different things. Anyway, we just did a little bit more research, and we found the Japanese in the so 20, around 2010, 2012, developed a gel delivery system for carbon dioxide into the skin. And we partnered with them, and we have the exclusive rights to that technology. So that's how we really started in the skincare. And you know, I'll tell you something. One of my favorite saying is, "You don't get old, you dry up." And
Mm-hmm.
that's we start off like this beautiful grape. Think of that, a grape, how firm the skin is, how juicy, and how it looks. It's just full, versus a raisin. And what is the difference? A raisin is just a dehydrated grape. It's a
Mm-hmm.
grape that has lost all the water content. And that's what happens to our skin and to our whole bodies. We turn into this raisin. So fortunately, there's technology that keeps it there. So water is one of the big components of the CO2 lift. It hydrates the skin over 117% after one application. So it was remarkable, like people, visible results. And then we've really based, we don't make claims, we do research. So we have done a lot of research and studies that have been published in peer-reviewed physician magazines. So dermatology, we've done wound healing, just to show you that this product is doing what it's saying. And so that's how I started. Um, and then what led to the vulva application is, again, something, my own need. When I got into my late 40s, I started experiencing a difference in the quality of sex.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was big into bioidenticals. I mean, I was thinking I was doing all the things to keep myself youthful, but I noticed that I wasn't orgasms were different. I wasn't feeling the sensitivity, definitely changed. And then I had the conversation with my gynecologist, and I explained to her what I was feeling, and she let me understand what happens to the vulva. So as we get older, and usually they mark 25 as age when blood flow starts slowing down. So you look at a 25-year-old and their skin looks nice, beautiful. You may put a magnifying glass against it, and you may see very, very tiny lines that are really not visible. Well, those lines become deeper. So this is because things start slowing down, and eventually it gets, if nothing is done about it, then you start forming wrinkles and that sort of thing. Well, our clitoris, which is, our vulva, which is our main pleasure center. Our clitoris is nothing but an inverted penis,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. It's all erectile tissue that needs blood flow to stay healthy. And that starts slowing down. It starts to can kind of shrink the clitoris. And so you lose sensitivity. And when I realized blood flow is an issue, and one of the things about the CO2 lift, and I feel like I'm talking a long time, but
No, keep going, keep going.
when one of the studies we did a study on diabetic ulcers.
Mm.
The CO2 lift can close a diabetic ulcer in as little as 8 days, so a non-healing wound. Then we did a larger study, and all the subjects, these were going to be the wounds could not heal with just the application of the CO2 lift. Within a month, all those wounds closed. Now, the problem with diabetics is circulation, because they on their extremities, very difficult to heal. And if the CO2 lift can increase blood flow and close a wound, I'm thinking it would be great for the vulva.
Mm.
Then another thing is the vagina, that tissue inside of the vagina, in the vagina, it's like the skin under our eyes. It's very thin. So it's easy to get brittle and dry. So
And
what
it
about
differs. Some women will experience bleeding as they get older, and they might think something's wrong, but it could just be that the skin now is so thin.
Exactly. And the CO2 lift increases elasticity 26% after only 6 applications.
Oh.
And so it thickens the skin, increases elasticity. I'm like, would be perfect. So I went to one of my medical directors, who's a cosmetic gynecologist, and said, what do you think about using this for that area? And he said, let's try it. So it's perfect. Well, we did a double blind study. And for your listeners, what that means is that the people who enroll in the study, they don't know if they're going to get the real thing or a placebo.
Mhm.
So then, as well as investigator, they don't know who's using what.
Yeah.
So these women, they completed a function a standardized functional sexual questionnaire that measures sexual function. All the women that used the ultrasound gel showed no changes in sexual function. All the women that use a CO2 lift technology showed significant change in arousal, orgasm, lubrication, sensitivity. Then we did the biopsies. And when you see that tissue of these women after only 10 treatments, and these women were in their 60s, so had a lot of atrophy, they looked like they're women in their 20s and 30s. So again, that was pretty much got me excited. I tell you, I gave some to my mom and my aunts who were in their 60s and 70s, and they went from sandpaper to butter. So I knew we had something there.
Yeah. Which is, I don't think, especially younger women, as we were talking about before we press record, we're seeing now that women as young as 25 are seeing big drops in their hormones and starting to experience these perimenopause symptoms, which includes regression of the tissues, because you need hormones to be plump and full of vitality. But when vaginal dryness occurs, it can be very painful. I've had clients cry. I do have one client, she won't mind me saying this, but her and her partner, and they're only in their 50s now, early 50s, they stopped having intercourse or anything about 10 years ago because it was so painful for her, like so pain, and she would bleed and cry with the pain that she can't even be touched down there. And unfortunately, like I spoke to you about, this is a real story. This same woman went to her doctor and gynecologist, and they refused hormone therapy on her. So, like, it's important that we understand what happens to our body, and you can start experiencing these symptoms in your 30s.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I mean, there are two things we're talking about here. First of all, that was really interesting that you said that to me prior, because I've always recommended at 35 to start doing your hormones to see a baseline, but you're suggesting even earlier. And I hear what
That's
you're
what the
saying.
research is showing. Yeah.
And it rings true because some of the testimonials and the conversations I've had with young women, I mean, you're talking about young women, like 28 years old, that are experiencing painful sex. So that is interesting that you say that from 25. But the thing about it is, Charmaine, is that two things. One is, of course, the vagina. That area, it's that tissue needs to be regenerated. So hormones are one thing, but even a woman who are on hormones, if you're not taking care of your skin, you're going to start showing age,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing down there. We have to take care of our vaginal skin too. That tissue, make it thick, make it plump, make it juicy, but also to our vulva, which has the clitoris, that we need to make sure that we're getting proper blood flow to that area. And that goes for women as young as in their 20s too. Who doesn't want to have healthy blood flow that's going to keep that area so you can feel good when you do have sex, or just to feel good in your skin?
Hmm.
So those are the things that I'm a big advocate of, women starting early to look at those things, as opposed to waiting until everything is dried up, and then it's very difficult to reverse.
So when you were discussing CO2, you may have noticed I smiled, especially mentioning back in the early century, what the samurais, and not only the samurais, all across Europe, it was well known that if you exposed the skin to carbon dioxide through springs, many people, especially in Ireland and Europe, will have heard of Lourdes, in France, where the miracles happen, but the science proposes those miracles could actually be because that water is so rich in CO2. Some people would argue it's hydrogen it's rich in, but regardless, we've known that CO2 or carbon dioxide is very good for the body. It is very good for the body, contrary to what we're being told nowadays. CO2 is essential for life, but not only that, healthy vitality life. But exposing the skin, like you mentioned, and I just mentioned there, even with here where we are in Canada, I'm in Alberta, but a lot of people will go to the hot springs here, so radium hot springs. And I think people go thinking, oh, this is really soothing, it's warm, it's nice, it's relaxing, but they don't understand like the molecular context that's happening there. These springs are very rich in carbon dioxide. So to do full circle with what you were saying with the topical creams that you've now created, what was the research like? Can you go a little bit more in depth on what you guys saw just applying to our extremities, not so much the vulva, but what, because people want to look good. So
So, okay, so this gel, so it's a gel, right? And you'll get some, and so you can see it. Hopefully sooner than later you'll see it, but it's a gel. We can't pre-mix it because once you mix it, the CO2 is created. So the two gels, when you mix it, creates the carbon dioxide, right? But that penetrates to the muscular level. So it's not just surface. That's why you're getting, and then once it goes there, it's the mechanism of action is called the Bohr effect. That's what it's called. When CO2 gas goes in, there's a shift in the oxygen dissociation curve, and it kind of releases the oxygen and picks up the CO2, right? So that's what happens. So that's why you're having that flood of oxygen-rich blood in the area that is applied. So it's when we started off with the face just because, that's worked in skincare. But then we saw the application for all type of skin, and that's why we do it down there. And then it's safe. There's no contraindications. It's a benign product. So it's used, for instance, I'll show you the different applications. I mean, they're using it on psoriasis, on eczema. They're using it on, plastic surgeons use it on the flaps. If you do any kind of surgery, there's this flap you can put it on to help to heal. It prevents, but because of proper healing, so people who are more prone to keloid, it prevents that. So pellets, for instance, I get pellets in my butt, and one time that I never used the CO2 lift, right after I got a scar on my butt. So it prevents scarring because it's going to help heal. So they're using, a lot of women
that
are
was
doing
going to
it.
be one of my questions. Have you looked at, because I know a lot of my women will be curious, have you looked at loose skin and stretch marks?
Yes. So we've had actually a study done with on stretch marks. I mean, and it's effective. It's better with combination therapy. But again, it's going to, I personally love things that are immediate. Now, understandably, the CO2 lift is working beneath the skin because we've done the homework, we've done the studies. You see the increase in elasticity, the hydration, the decrease in wrinkles, I mean, luminosity, all those different things are taking place. You're building back the tissue. But what I like to see is immediate look. So with stretch marks is not as immediate. However, there are people who have been using it in conjunction with other therapies for stretch marks. But certainly for healing, I have a explants are big. So many people are doing that in terms of healing that skin under here, preventing scarring. The CO2 lift is
And
great for that.
infection, because CO2 is great for preventing infection.
Exactly. It's anti-inflammatory. And that's why one of the things too, it also helps with people who are suffering from acne, from, again, when we mentioned psoriasis, from eczema, anything that when you look at the body, when there is compromised tissue in terms of blood flow, it's going to be effective. You need hydration, so you have a lot of dryness. You're going to, the CO2 lift is very important there. Anything with inflammation, CO2 lift. So if you look at the underlying reason for things, and if you can pinpoint it to any of those three things, you definitely, the CO2 lift is going to be effective, and it's painless. It's a cooling, pleasant treatment that you can apply in the privacy of your home.
Yeah. Part of this is just from my understanding and research with with CO2, CO2 has most of its metabolic effect in the mitochondria. And I always remind people that when we think of mitochondria, we think of like the little energy powerhouses in our cells, but people immediately, I think towards blood cells and muscle cells. They forget our skin, our hair is all made up of cells. And the research does show us that when you even ingest CO2, like in, say, San Pellegrino, CO2 is being shown to help the water molecules get into the cells and help with mitochondria action better. And if you can get the mitochondria spinning faster, you're going to not only have that healthy glow that you very much have, but you also have the capacity to regenerate the cells and heal. And I mean, we could get kind of granular, but CO2 it's an incredible molecule.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was a an article in Allure magazine last year, and they talked about a lot of the bigger companies like L'Oreal, and they're looking at adding CO2 to the different creams and gels that they have, just because it's going to help with the action of the product. And so anything you put with it. So people who are doing, for instance, exosomes or PRP on their skin, normally they need something to break the skin, right? Well, the CO2 lift doesn't need to break the skin to go in. So the CO2 lift on its own is penetrating to the muscular level, but also too, if you use any of those other type of treatments and you put the CO2 gel over it, it's going to help that to penetrate further into the skin. So you're going to get a better outcome. So really, we recommended, and we started off with physicians. So we started with derms, then we went into plastics and then med spas. And what they do is they put it along with as a standalone, but also in combination to help to enhance the results and to reduce the downtime. So people who are doing laser or microneedling or RF to their skin, when you put this on post, it's going to reduce the downtime and give you a better result from what you're doing. For the
Well,
vaginal, so go ahead.
I was just going to say, it would make you wonder what's going to happen if we hit carbon net zero, like the agenda is. We'll all shrivel up like prunes.
Right? Oh my God. Yeah.
Or you could
Yeah.
just start selling carbon to all the people that realize how important it is.
Right? Oh my goodness. But and even for the vulva area, first there, there are other treatments that you can do RF, you can do laser inside of the vagina and on the vulva. And this is a great treatment also to help to reduce the downtime of that, to bring back the pH, because the pH of the CO2 lift V is around 4 to 4.5. So when you do anything, you can throw off the microbiome. This is going to bring it back. It's going to bring back the pH of that area. So again, I always look at it as almost like an insurance policy if you're doing any of those type of other treatments for the vulva vagina.
But realistically, the majority of people don't want to do stuff like that. Women don't want to be poked at and have invasive procedure. Like if you're a woman, you're already being poked at from giving birth and having paps and everything. So I think a lot of women more so prefer, well, if you can create a magic cream then I'm all for it, because as a woman myself, I am sick of being poked at all the time. Just stop.
No, but you're right. And then also too, it gives you the control.
Mhm.
It gives you the control. So in a treatment for the vulva vagina, you're going to do 5 to 10 treatments. So just over the course of 2 weeks. And in that alone will bring everything back. Then to maintain it, you're going to do one a month. So it's very simple. So if someone experiences all the benefits within 5, they can stop. Somebody who may want to go to 10, we did the study with using 10. Some women suffer from lichen sclerosis. There is 5. We've had some pilot studies with lichen sclerosis, really incredible. They need 15, but some women experience the benefits even with lichen sclerosis with just 10.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives you the control. You can do it, there's no pain involved and there's no downtime. So it's really something that that is very simple to do. Another thing I like to think of is, our biggest sex organ is our brain, right? So when we expect sex to be comfortable, we expect it to be pleasurable, then we're going to want to participate more. And certainly by taking care of that area, just the act of taking care of it brings that mind body awareness to it, that you want to be intimate, because intimacy is important, not only as a connecting with yourself, but certainly connecting with your partner.
Yeah, and for maintaining marriages nowadays, it's important. There's a high percentage of marriages end because of the yin yang that's happening in the bedroom. Like partners are just not connecting anymore. And part of this is because women feel so disconnected with their body. I'll get a lot of messages that's, oh, I've no libido, or I just don't want to do it, or it hurts, or whatever. And of course, men, they don't fully understand the woman's body. So then they get frustrated and think, well, what's going on? How do we fix it? Or like it can be very frustrating. And sometimes people just give up, and maybe unfortunately the man might go one way, the woman goes another way. But this is real life, this happens. This is not, we're speaking like Beverly Hills housewives. We're like, this is real life. Women, it hurts, so we don't want to do it, and men get frustrated because men have needs there. And yeah, so I like this idea of having this as an option. So you mentioned that it's two gels that when combined together, they're going to react and now give you the carbon dioxide.
Yes, yes. So let me show you, for instance, let me see, I have something here. So first, what is, I'm finding you the brochure on the V, but really what it is there's a water in the large packet. And when that combines with the gluconolactone in the smaller packet, it forms a mild acid, which that mild acid, which mixes with the magnesium carbonate, forms CO2. But this is kind of how it looks here. So you can see it's like a gel. You
Mm.
pull it up in the, so it comes like in a box. It has these two packets. You open it, mix it together with that stick, you pull it up in that applicator, you insert it very similar to a tampon. And it has really a nice visual effect, so an aesthetic effect because of the plumping.
Mhm.
So as much as to me, that's not the most important, that's like the cherry on top. I think that a lot of, talking to women, some women are insecure about how their vulva looks. I've seen so many of them, Shemaine, and they all look different. I think it's all beautiful because it's yours and
Mm.
it's working and it's healthy. Again, as I said, I didn't look at my own till my 30s. I had to it's almost like an acquired taste. Acquired look, because I just was like, oh, but no, I'm so I mean, this is my vulva. It makes me a woman. It makes me feel in control. It makes me feel so powerful. And I think the one of the confusing things for women, or the messages that we receive, especially from, well, for me personally growing up, is that, really sex and intimacy is for the man. Well, that's not true. I
No.
mean, I've learned differently as I got older. It definitely helps with the connection with your partner, but it really is there's such a power in sexual energy and understanding how to use it. We may not at this age, and for me, having any children, creating any children, but we're creating ideas, we're creating businesses, we're creating success in other areas of our life. So we understand the benefit, we're going to want to participate. So we definitely need to take care of that area.
I would argue that even for the men listening, that sex may be more for the woman, because if your woman's enjoying it, she's going to want to do it more as well.
Yes. And speaking, you said something on technique of men. I think and I'm sure men are up on this, but it takes time for a woman, for all that blood, all for her clitoris to be engorged, because we're all created, we have a clitoris. When it's a man, it throws outward your stomach into a penis. The women's turn inside. So all of that inside needs to get engorged, and it takes time to do that. So if you rush it, it's like having sex with a flaccid penis. You wouldn't do that. But many women do that. And what happens too is, as we get older, because blood flow slows down, it can even take longer. So here is the benefit of the CO2 lift V. It kind of keeps you at this simmer, so you're at this warm simmer. So when you're ready to turn up the heat, then you can boil. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it helps a woman to feel in control. And again, it's about health. it's about sexual health, it's about intimate health, all of those things. So I always say, this face can get your partner, but it's really this face down there that's going to keep your partner, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of women in the end, they just end up doing it because just to for the sake of it, to provide that womanly duty or wifely duty, but also because, back to what started this conversation, is because they don't understand their body and how important it is. And that's why this podcast is what it is, to really help people understand, especially women, because we're a little bit more complicated than men, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a benefit of having good orgasms, increase our, in our immune system. It's great for stress. It's important to have good sex. And I always say to women, don't rush it. Like take your time. See it as something for you, almost like Netflix into it. Like just relax and connect.
Netflix
And
and chill.
not just like rush to get to that part because you want it to be finished, but like really use that time to slow things down, almost, spend time kissing, spend time looking in the eyes, spend time laughing, like that connection. And then you start to warm up everything else. And then you can get going, but I feel like it's important to spend the time to do it right.
Which honestly can be very, very hard nowadays, because we're so rushed all the time, it's because we're so rushed and we've so many demands and kids and work and that's partially why women are experiencing these issues earlier and earlier. So I know a lot of women listening to this saying, oh my God, spend time doing this and that. As much as it's so important, it sounds very hard. Like it's hard work when you consider your day. I have to do this. Like it is hard, but it is necessary because, like you mentioned, the wellness aspect, orgasm plays an intricate part in, of course, oxytocin, dopamine shutting off. It's a direct switch to shut off cortisol and adrenaline. Not enough women do it, even by themselves, when they should be orgasming. Doesn't always have to be in intercourse, but there's a lot of health benefits. And again, with what you said and what we know, the research is there and it's solid. It's solid research.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I'm at a different part about it. I'm still, I mean, I have a business, I have my kids still, I'm still very much a part of their life. I think what I did is just cut out TV. I mean, in other words, I get to bed later, but when we come to bed, it's like we just relax as opposed to TV. So I've cut out TV because I see there's more benefit in connecting in that way with my husband as opposed to just relaxing through watching a TV show. So not that we don't have TV, but we just switch it over. We don't spend that amount of time. We just really use that time to connect with each other. And it doesn't have to be, sexual intercourse every night, but it certainly needs to be intimacy and touching and connection, and that is going to help you with your own drive, with your own, as you mentioned, stress and all that, and again with your relationship.
Mm. Well, cutting out TV, it gives you back that time. And I know a lot of my clients and followers will roll their eyes. I think TV is somewhat a waste of time. There's better ways to spend your time. Not going to go down the rabbit hole of health and TV, but just when you look at time, if you're spending an hour watching TV in the evening, but your marriage is suffering, or you're not feeling connected to your partner, or maybe you just have something else to do, why would you waste that hour on TV? It's not going to benefit you. So anyway, this was a fascinating conversation. I know a lot of my women are going to be interested in hearing this because, again, what I said, this is real. This happens.
Mhm.
This you cannot avoid. I suppose there's a 1 in a million person who could avoid this if they had all the money in the world to get all the help in the world. They didn't work and they lived a life of luxury. But for the majority of us, you're going to experience this. I'm going to experience this. We all are. And we need to be aware of these different tools that we can access without permission from a doctor or a medical practitioner. We can access these if we so choose to take responsibility ourselves for our health instead of someone telling us, oh, you can do that or you can't. It's my body. I'll do what I want to do. So I like that this is not only accessible, but non-invasive as well. I'll be sure to put all the links below. Two things. We didn't mention it, even though I mentioned it before we press record. For those of you interested, Lana is 52, going on 53. And I know many of you are looking at her going, she must be like 38. No, she knows what she's talking about, but she really does practice what she preaches and is a prime example of what you can do if you take care of yourself and you're proactive, especially with the aging process.
Yes. Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you. And it's never too, well, I won't say it's never too late to start, but it really is never too late to start. But I think that what I like about even with your age, Charmaine, and with younger women are so much more interested in looking at how they can stay younger for a longer time. Because I didn't really even start thinking about that until my late 30s, So, but thank you for saying that.
That's because I think we take youth for granted, though, as well, don't we?
Yeah, true, true. But yet in other cultures, you looking at a lot of Asian countries, they start so young. I mean, you're talking about 15-year-olds who are into skincare, like real skincare.
Mm,
That's why they can almost freeze, it's like they freeze their age.
yeah.
So if we start younger, we can really stave off the effects of doing things that you may not want to do or more aggressive things when you don't, if you just maintain what you have from an early age.
It's true. A lot of these Asian cultures, they look so young, like 25 when they're 45. Like it's incredible. Um, so thank you for your time today. We were also going to offer my clients a discount should they want to try this. I'm keeping it very simple, which means 10. I will share the links below. I am interested to try this out, and people always like to hear my opinion on different products and how I found them. So I'm not an aging woman in a sense of I'm not in menopause, but I'm aging in the sense of this is time waits for no woman, as I say.
Well, you look great. You look great, Tremaine. And I cannot wait for you to try both the top and the bottom. You're going to love it. So and we do, deliver in Canada as well. So definitely they can go to the website. They're going to put in your code and they'll receive the discount on that. And certainly if anyone has any questions, I'm very good at responding. My Instagram handle is the Lana Kerr. I'm very good at responding. I get a lot of DMs because I do a lot of these type of podcasts, but also to our main website, our main Instagram handle, the CO2 Lift
Mhm.
and CO2 Lift V, our support team. They're very good also at responding to DMs. So feel free to reach out.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. I'll let you know how I go and what I perceive the progress and changes to be. Thank you for your time. Honestly, you look fabulous for your
Oh,
age. I hate saying for your age, but you look fabulous, full stop, regardless of your age. I wish, and you obviously feel fabulous too. And I think every woman should feel that. Just feel that glow, feel full of vitality, feel healthy, feel happy, confident in yourself. Like every woman deserves that. So
yeah.
all we can do is continue to try help women find that and find their way.
Amen. Amen. I appreciate that. And I agree with you. Every sentence, every word. Agree with you on that.
Well, thank you for your time, Lana. This has been a pleasure.
Yes, very nice. Thank you for having me again, Charmaine.
Thank you.